When you're learning a new language, how do you go about learning new vocabulary? And this is an interesting question because I think a lot of people have different ways to go about it. Um, I'm going to just give you some of the ways that I go about learning new vocabulary. One way that I go about it is by watching television. Like the language that I'm learning and concentrating on learning at the moment is Spanish. Um, and where I live in the United States, Spanish is widely spoken. It has no official status, but it's widely spoken. And like I can turn on my television set and watch programs in Spanish. So like that's one of the ways that I learn how to speak Spanish and how to well, learn new words. Is by watching Spanish television. And that really helps because you can look at a word, well, you can hear a word and then you can see a visual of the word. Like, oh, like grapadora, you know, and you're seeing someone with like a stapler, like, oh, dame la grapadora. I sound kind of Italian when I said that instead of Spanish. Whatever. um, Another way is by reading. Um, I don't read as much as I should, but I do read. And that definitely helps to build your vocabulary, definitely. Because I was reading this book and like I didn't know a lot of the words. I had like to a point where I'm just like, okay, line, word on top, like English word. But I was able to learn a lot of different words. And I was exposed to a lot of different vocabulary as well as like the syntax of Spanish, like the sentence structure, um, which definitely helps when you're writing or if you plan to write because Spanish syntax is a bit complex at times versus English syntax, which can be like very straightforward. Like English syntax is very like static. It's like it is what it is. But Spanish is different. It's like or it can be like subject verb object and it can be like verb subject object and then it can be like okay, the object is here. It's like it's weird, but I like it. It definitely kind of adds to the richness of the Spanish language, so I don't really have much of an issue with that for the most part. um, and another way is by reading headlines in Spanish. Like that's like a really easy way to learn new words. Read the headlines. Like if you have a smartphone, you can just set your home page to like a Spanish speaking or Spanish language newspaper, and you're gonna see headlines, like many headlines, and you'll be exposed to words like new words just from headlines alone. So I'm like, if you don't have the time, or if you're too lazy to read, then like read a book, then read headlines. That's a good way to learn a new language or learn new words. Another way to learn new vocabulary for me is like participate in like Spanish conversation get-togethers. Like I've done a couple of language exchanges. One person I did a language exchange with was from Spain, and the other person was from Peru. And I've also done like the conversation sit down, and they've been mostly with non-native speakers, but it still kind of helped to build my vocabulary. And we did it at a Mexican restaurant, so like the waiter or waitress was usually someone who spoke Spanish. Um, so again, that's a way to learn also. And you can also take Spanish classes. I recently took a class in Spanish healthcare terminology and whatnot, and I was exposed to a totally new vocabulary set because like I feel like the vocabulary I know is kind of general. It's not really specific to like business or law or healthcare. But learning that the healthcare vocabulary kind of gives me more of a specialized vocabulary to an extent. But you can also just take a regular Spanish course, and you'll learn some new vocabulary and meet some cool people and like-minded people like yourself, and you're able to, you know, bond over the experience of learning Spanish. Like where I live, like the county I live in, they offer like like the library offers free conversational Spanish classes. So I go there, and it's usually taught by a native speaker. So that is great too. But the healthcare class, I had paid money to do the healthcare class. And let's see, what's another way that I kind of learn another like new vocabulary? Sometimes, in fact, I just think of words like, I'm looking at like maybe a microphone or a set of keys. I'm like, how do you say that in Spanish? I'm like, okay, microfono, or llaves, llavero, or like keychain. Yeah, llavero. Yeah, that was like the keychain one was definitely one that I learned like really recently because like, okay, I know how to say keys, llaves for keys, and how do you say keychain or keyring? I'm like, okay, I just looked it up and I'm like, okay, llavero. And I think I think that really helps me too. In fact, I actually keep a book or sort of it's like a little tiny journal or more or less of like the Spanish words that I learned and acquired. Let's see. I think I got it somewhere. One sec. All right, here is my kind of like little Spanish vocabulary journal. And I've done this for like pages. And the very first word I put down here was paleta. Paleta. And I saw that when I was at like a Cinco de Mayo celebration. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like looking at it like, okay, paleta, and I'm seeing what they're serving. I'm like, okay, basically it's a popsicle, more or less. And then I was like, okay, that is like, I'm learning something while I'm at Cinco de Mayo, so that's cool. And also, when I was at Cinco de Mayo, I was kind of exposed to another accent, because it was like a Cuban Spanish speaker who was doing like, who was like emceeing a particular event at Cinco de Mayo, and I was like, that's so weird because I'm not really used to like the Cuban accent. I'm used to more like a Mexican accent, maybe definitely a Spaniard, the accent of like Spaniards and Mexicans, definitely. So that was like, okay, I'm kind of being exposed to something new. So that was cool. And it was a cultural experience, and I've always wanted to do the Cinco de Mayo celebration, but for some reason I've always missed it. But this year I did it, and I was happy. And I also have an embarrassing experience about it, also to an extent. But that's another video. But thanks for watching.